What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I'm at the beach testing out another ND filter system for the Nikon 14-24 2.8S lens. And the filter is actually on the camera right now. You can't see it, and that's because it's a rear ND filter by Haida. So we're gonna talk about it more in depth, but first, let me get some shots of this sunrise before it's too late. Now, full disclosure, Haida sent me these filters to test out and review for free, but I'm still gonna give my honest opinion of what I like and dislike about the filters. So let's unbox them, then we'll talk about the adapter filter ring, and then I'm gonna get into the nitty-gritty of the pros and cons of a rear ND filter set. As we unbox the Haida rear ND filter kit, we get an installation manual, the rear adapter ring, a screwdriver, 4 ND filters, which include a 3-stop, 4-stop, 6-stop, and a 10-stop ND filter. And at the bottom there's a cheat sheet for your exposure time with the ND filter that you choose. Installing the rear adapter ring was a little nerve-wracking as I had to take apart a piece of my $2,400 lens, but it's actually quite simple by removing just 3 screws specified in the instructions. The Haida rear lens adapter ring is metal, which makes it feel more robust than the Nikon plastic piece that I pulled out. Now, one thing I have to mention here, I ended up using my own screwdriver since the one provided by Haida was not strong enough to remove the screws. The screws actually stripped the screwdriver that they provided, but luckily I had a set of micro screwdrivers and one of those was able to do the job. So that's just something that you should be aware of. Once the rear adapter ring is installed, simply blow out any dust and wipe off any fingerprints on the rear element, and then you're good to go. To install a filter, you have to slide it in and then just lock it down with a rotating arm, which is fairly simple. It was a little trickier getting the filters out, so I would suggest getting a suction cup pen to make life easier and to avoid getting fingerprints all over your filter. So jumping into the negatives of a rear ND filter set, the biggest and most obvious downside is you have to take off your lens every time to change out the filter. This exposes your sensor, so you really want to be cautious in the environment that you're using rear ND filters in. You don't want to use them in like a high wind, dusty, dirty, sandy environment. Today it's nice and calm, so I'm not too worried about the sand or anything like that. You just want to be smart and cautious when using your rear ND filters. Another downside is that it takes a little bit longer to put in the filter compared to a front filter, so you could possibly miss the shot if you don't plan accordingly. And my last downside that, it's not a huge thing, but you can only use one filter at a time. And this is why they give you 4 filters, a 3-stop, 4-stop, 6-stop, and a 10-stop. So you really want to plan that shot ahead because you can't stack filters with this. You only use one at a time. However, it's not all bad with rear ND filters. They can actually be used in conjunction with front filters, which is pretty cool. So for example, if you're doing a sunrise, you could put in your rear ND filter like a 3 or 4 stop, and then as the sun starts to get higher and the ambient light starts to get brighter, then you could throw in a front filter, and that way you could continue doing longer exposures without having to take off your lens. Rear filters are also great for traveling since they're smaller and lighter. So if you're unable to take your big bulky filters that go here in the front for this particular lens, you could always bring your rear filters along with you because they are, like I said, much smaller and lighter. And lastly, with rear filters, you don't get any of the ghosting or reflections that you sometimes get when you're shooting into the sun with a front filter. So that's another great positive. So basically, like any filter system, you're gonna have to weigh out the pros and the cons. So let's jump onto the computer next, and I'm gonna show you guys the sharpness test and also the color cast that these filters give off. All right, so here we are on the computer side of things. This image right here, there was no ND filter used, but I'm gonna compare it with the 3-stop. So let me select that one and hit compare. So on the left here, no ND filter. On the right, 3-stop ND filter. I'm not gonna zoom in here. I'll show you guys the sharpness in Photoshop because I'm running into this issue where if I zoom in, only one image is loading and the other one's taking forever to load. So I'll just show you guys this in Photoshop for the sharpness, but we'll do the comparison of any color cast that these filters may give off. And as you can see, it doesn't look like there's much vignetting and the skies look very comparable. So far so good. This 3-stop doesn't have much of a color cast and looks really good. So let's move on to a 4-stop. So on the right here is our 4-stop, which came out really good. It is a little bit brighter, which is okay. And as far as the color cast, you can see a little bit of a color variance in the asphalt here. It looks like there's a little more magenta. The sky looks pretty good, but we could definitely just, you know, warm this up with a little bit of yellow and make it, and add a little bit of green as well, and make it look a lot more like the no ND filter shot right here. But overall, the color cast is very minimal. And moving on, let's go to our 6-stop. Here it came out a little bit cooler, but it's not terrible. This is very easy to fix by changing our white balance sliders. And let's go to our 10-stop. 10-stop had the biggest color cast with a lot of yellow added to it, but I cooled this down and it came out almost identical to the no filter shot. So I'll show you guys a side-by-side comparison. Let me unclick that and click on this guy right here. So on the left is our no ND filter. On the right is the 10-stop ND filter after I color corrected it to match as best as possible. And it came out really good. It's not perfect, but very close. So the color cast on these Haida filters are very minimal, and you know, it's very easy to fix them to be as accurate as possible. So far I'm really impressed. Let's jump to Photoshop and I'll show you guys the sharpness test. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop. Now the left half is going to be no ND filter, and then the right half is going to be our 4 different ND filters that we tested out. So let's start with the 3-stop. Let me click that right here. We're going to zoom in at 300% and really pixel peep these. And because I took the lens on and off to change out the filter, it's not going to be perfectly aligned because it did get bumped around a little bit. But you can see as far as sharpness, actually we're at 300%. The bricks look virtually identical as far as sharpness goes. Even the text looks very comparable. So far so good. Yeah, it looks really good. So let's go on to our 4-stop. Now you're going to see a little color variance because I did not color correct these. They're just as is. But as far as sharpness goes, the bricks look nice and sharp compared to the bricks on the left side. The text looks pretty much the same. It's a little bit brighter here, but not by much. Yeah, it looks a lot similar as far as sharpness goes, so I don't think we lost any sharpness. Let's go on to our 6-stop. Alright, this looks maybe a hair softer. It's really hard to tell, but looks really good overall. And again, we're pixel peeping this at 300%, and it's very hard to tell. It might be a little bit softer, but not by much. And last but not least, our 10-stop. Obviously, this came out warmer, but very easy to fix, as I showed you guys. And as far as sharpness goes, it looks really good. Maybe just a hair softer, looking at the text here, but very hard to tell. Yeah, you zoom out to 100% and I can't notice any sharpness difference. You really have to pixel peep to find something different. Yeah, here's 400%. Yeah, maybe just a hair softer, but not by much. So overall, looking at this, I think the quality of the filters is fantastic. The color cast is very minimal and very easy to fix when you use a 10 stop, so it's not an issue. You don't lose too much sharpness, maybe a little bit here with the 6 and 10 stop, but it's very minor, and you really have to pixel peep it to see any loss of quality. So, you know, I'm very impressed with the Haida filters. And another impressive thing that I'm noticing looking at these filters is the vignetting is virtually the same as a vignette without using an ND filter, which is awesome. Now, I'm pretty new with using rear ND filters, but I definitely think I'm gonna use them in conjunction with my front filters. So I'll probably end up using a 3 or a 4 stop and then throw, you know, another ND filter in the front to do a longer exposure and just experiment like that. I really like how they handle the vignette, and yeah, Haida has some really good quality stuff. I've used them in the past with my old Nikon 14-24 lens. I had the 150mm rectangular filters that I used, and they worked out great. So this is just another system that you guys are going to have to weigh out the pros and cons of, you know, what your needs are. And if you're interested in these filters, I'll leave a link down below. So check them out, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.